Welcome back to Sika Strength, and welcome back to the new show brought to you, as always, by Sika Sleep. Why does Sika Sleep help your sleep? Because it contains some of the most important micronutrients you need to get to sleep and stay asleep and get better quality sleep. Now, just straight into it, this is a 320 kilo by 5 set of safety squat front squats. This is from our man Lucas. We've seen him on the show before. I don't know what else to say about this other than it is a 320 kilo by 5 front squat with a safety squat bar reversed.
You know, the safety squat bar reversed just makes no sense. So on the back, you'd be like, oh yeah, you get a bit more quad recruitment. But in my head, I can't compute the feeling of having a safety squat bar on the front.
Oh,
Is 320 kilos, is that like the same as doing 300? Is it the same as doing 320? It's so hard to know. It's insanely impressive.
it's actually mind-bogglingly impressive that I kind of don't know what to say about this. And I understand that the new show is, of course, a commentary. And here he is going tapping the metal plates to show that they're metal. But we've seen Lucas do other ludicrous stuff anyway. So I don't doubt that this is 320 kilos.
I fully believe this is 320 kilos.
It's just that I still don't understand that it's 320 kilos. I know it's 320. I just don't understand it's 320, if that makes sense.
There's also a whole other area of this of like, most of the time if you're squatting massive weights like that, you're going to get a fair bit of bar whip.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just get that little bounce out of the bottom. Especially if you're front squatting, most of the time it's weightlifters using the front squat. You get a little bit of forgiveness. Geez, there's no forgiveness there with a safety squat bar.
Yeah, the diameter's quite thick. It looks like to be an inch or more, so similar to the collars. I also am concerned that he's wearing jean shorts while doing this. Also,
Jorts?
I think he's genuinely wearing jorts. As we know, Eastern European men are very fond of wearing 3/4 length jeans, and this is no different. I assume it's where they get all their power from. But there really is nothing else to say about this other than the fact that this is 320 kilos by 5. I don't know what else to...
Yeah.
I can't...
I'm actually speechless.
We're just going to have to move on because
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
don't know what to say. Here we have our favourite cyclist, Robert Forstmann, with 290 kilos for a doublé. So this is 3.05 times body weight, which I think we would just call 3 times body weight.
Yeah.
So coming in at about 95 kilos, always wearing his cycling singlet and high socks.
Yeah. Jeez, these are so controlled. I've never seen a video of Robert where he looks any way close to failure.
His ass is kind of cheating for him because it's like artificially... He's doing a box squat onto his ass.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
You know, when people talk about biomechanical stacking of like the bicep coming onto the forearm.
What's stacked?
He's getting a lot of stackage there.
Those pneumatic pads are touching
Yeah.
off each other. It's providing a great level of
They're
control.
ramming into each other.
That's why he's getting so much control.
Yeah.
It's because he's got such biomechanical stacking.
Phenomenal.
Incredible.
What have we seen his heaviest squat?
I think he might have done 300 kilos, but I assume
Okay.
he's going for it at this rate.
Yeah.
It'll be very impressive to see it. How many singlets does he have is what I want to know.
What I want to know is how they can make one of those really light racing bikes that will stand up to him driving his quads into it.
That's the power of
Carbon fiber.
Carbon. Now, busting onto the scene is this young man from Belarus, Ignas. Not a name I've ever heard of before. He is still only 18. I'm going to say somewhere in the region of a 73 kilo lifter. First up lift we have from him is a 165 kilo block snatch double. We of course always see the Belarusians with the low blocks, loving a low block. Ukrainians love low blocks too.
Yeah.
No high block.
I really like his snatch technique. I've seen another one of the videos of his snatch. I really like how aggressive he is in the lockout overhead. There's a very definite kind of punch through, you know.
You know what he does do as well is he does make that artificial position where he brings the hips straight into the barbell. He still sweeps it back into him through the second pull. So normally we don't see that at low block snatches. Belarusians, of course, are huge fans of knees out in the pull. If there's a system I could get a look at how they program how much drugs they take, how they teach technique specifically, I would love to see the Belarusian system, but I probably will never get a chance to see that unless I get in contact with someone. Maybe I did get a good chat with Andrei Ramnov before, of course, but I'd really like to see it, but I don't think that's ever on the cards, especially given the political climate. Second we have from him is a 170 kilo snatch from the floor, which is arguably more impressive.
Yeah, I think this is a video I'd seen before. His technique is very consistent going from the floor and from the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not, as you said, there's not that artificial position there, but I really like his technique.
He is, of course, wearing the ROM 4s, which the Nike have still the audacity to charge €200+ for.
You know what annoys me most about that is they still call them Ramaleos.
Yeah.
They're not the same shoe.
Here's 195 kilo clean from him, from a very nice angle. Very aesthetic lighting, of course. 195 kilos and a beautiful clean and jerk. He's got that just mid-back flexibility.
It's so nice.
Powerful jerk coming in here. Boom.
Oh, yeah.
Little chalk poof from the floor and the lighting.
Oh,
Incredible.
that's got it all.
Now, sticking with Belarus, we have Artem Danilchik. He's a 67 kilo lifter, and this is a 150 kilo block snatch. So he's 145 and 150.
Jesus, that's some speed.
Again with the low blocks, or at the knee blocks, 150 kilos, massively fast.
Yeah. Insane speed, isn't it? That looks like it's or artificially sped up.
Yeah, it's just righteously fast.
Yeah.
You do see that with Belarusian lifters is you just don't see slow lifters from Belarus.
Jesus Christ, that's aggressive. So nice. It has the major trademark of being a serious weightlifting gym as well, of those faded out illegal plates.
Yes.
You know.
You always see serious weightlifters train in spandex as well.
Yeah.
Don't you? You really do see them. You never see them wear pants.
Very, very rarely.
I assume that's to keep the washing load light. Now, over to Kazakhstan, we have one of the Kazakh lifters, and that's squatting 330 kilos. He competed as a 109 just at the Asian Championships just gone, and relatively easy.
You know, he is so vertical as he sits down there.
Mm-hmm.
He almost looks too vertical, but obviously he's not. It's insane.
It's a testament to how heavy it is that he has to put on tape around the barbells, athletic tape, to keep the plates on, even though he's in a national training facility.
Yeah. Alico literally don't make things for that much weight.
ZKC actually pip Alico on this because I think their plates are a little bit narrower.
Okay.
So it's actually easier, I think, to fit more weight on the barbell. Although, I wonder what he could he fit another 20 in a 5? Probably not. So he was kind of scoopered anyway. Quality of squat obviously is very high.
Insane, yeah.
Relatively easy.
Yeah.
Relatively.
How upright he is in that squat is like when you're teaching people to squat and they'll hold onto a squat rack.
Mm.
Joe, and they'll sit down like super upright. And you'll be like, oh, you'll never be in that position unless you're on the Kazakhstan national team.
He looks like he also could have done wrestling.
Yes.
Now, sticking with the Kazakhstan national team, we have the Artem Anchipov section of the new show, which was on a little hiatus for a while because Artem wasn't giving us any material for the new show. But he's back again with a 305 kilo double, and I think he's one of everyone's favourite squatters currently. So
I
pretty.
think he is the favourite squatter for me.
Currently active?
Yeah.
I think he might be my favourite squatter as well.
Yeah. Currently available for international selection. My God.
I'm going to say Artem might be my favourite squatter currently. I'm not sure who's more aesthetic. Are we missing someone? I feel like there's someone really obvious on the tip of my brain that I'm like, oh, of course, this person is much more aesthetic. But I don't know if there is.
I can't think of anyone.
I really can't think of anyone right now. I think Artem Anchipov is winning the most aesthetic squats alive. And certainly dominating the weights as well. Moving over to Team Italy. So this is a heavy squat news show if you haven't noticed.
Squat dominant.
We've got Greta the Riso, and she is a 16-year-old lifter, and she is front squatting 135 kilos.
Jesus Christ.
For a double. Absolutely perfect techers. No degradation in technique.
That is absolutely insane.
Do you know what's crazier about this as well? She's a 59 kilo lifter, but on top of that, her secondary regression position isn't knee valgus, it's more external rotation.
Yeah, it's push knees forward more and out to the side.
And why is she so lonely in the squatting training hall? Where's everyone else?
You know what I was thinking about the other day?
Go on.
With this Italian training hall.
Mm-hmm.
This Italian training hall is going to have so many massive world records and kind of like noteworthy training videos out of it, it's going to be like the Ilya 2014 training hall. It's just not that special right now because obviously it's in the early years of it. But it is, I think we're going to look at this in 5 or 10 years' time and be like, oh, remember that Italian training hall?
Yeah.
Remember all these lifts from there, you know?
Wait, are you saying there's going to be a huge drug bust? Now back to Belarus again. We're sticking with the squats, and we have one of my favourite supers, Edward Zizazulin.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. With a 310 kilo double.
Stop it.
Now, Edward has my single favourite snatch from any super. His snatch technique is, it looks like he could have done a set of 5. Maybe a set of 4.
That's an immaculate squat.
Yeah.
So controlled.
Super controlled.
You know, the big thing from this as well is, obviously we've spoken about people controlling the bar before they go for the next rep. Or when they unrack the bar, not taking that huge breath, you know. That bar is fully stationary before he starts squatting. And it's just, there's no mental moving around. It's just uber controlled all the time.
Arjun Manjapov commented on this, and the translation is waiting fire emoji, to which Edward responded, "Then we will have patience with you." So I assume something's lost in translation because that doesn't really make any sense about anything. But I assume they're waiting to catch up to each other, maybe.
Maybe they're speaking in code.
I'm just going to show you Edward's 210 kilo snatch because I love his snatch technique so much. Boom.
Ah, yes.
So hot right now.
Ah, yes.
So good. Looks like he could do 215 looking at that, but I feel like that was a PB. That was only a couple of weeks ago as well that he released that. So it will be remains to see what he does by the next Olympics. Now, still sticking with squatting, but moving away from our weightlifters, we have a powerlifter, Laya, squatting 190 kilos for a set of 6. Who does a 6 RM? I'm not sure. But this is frighteningly strong.
Yeah. Insane.
Ridiculously strong.
I was actually just looking at Leah's squat earlier today, writing a biomechanics video that's going to come out in the next few weeks. She has a very distinct style of squat, that's become very popular in the kind of IPF world in the last 2 or 3 years, but insanely strong.
Very, 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 very quad dominant.
Yes.
I would say
all of the quads.
Exceptionally quad dominant.
Yeah.
Generally competes as a 63 to 69 kilo lifter, so this is fucking mad impressive.
If you wanted to squat just to train your quads.
Yes.
If you were like a bodybuilder and you really needed to peak your quads, this would be a great way of squatting.
This works really well because if you're just trying to get below parallel, you maximize all the use of your quads. You're maxing out essentially all of your ankle range of motion or dorsiflexion. And if you can be consistent with it below that parallel position with the low bar, you're going to squat some big weights.
You're also maxing out that biomechanical stacking, having the legs that close, getting that kind of tightness in the hip flexors.
Yeah.
Yeah, insanely impressive.
Please work on your squat from you break your knees and thank me later. It's not about the weight. Your knees are more important than all the money in the world. That's not true.
Oh my God. If you're a professional powerlifter, nothing is more important than the weight.
Now, Dylan Johnson is squatting 260.4 kilos at 177 pound body weight, which is like 60 odd kilos. He's 15 years old. I don't know.
What is going on?
I don't, everyone knows how I feel about this. And I wish I could just talk to a load of these teenagers. I wish I could just be like, I wish you could just fucking, the main reason I brought this up is because if there's any teenagers watching, and I know it's happening more than ever, but please don't do it. I fucking hate it. Of all the things in regards to PEDs, etc. Now maybe Dylan's natural and that's perfect, and if he does see this or whatever, it's like, okay, cool. But like the main reason I brought this up is because of how much I wish it wasn't happening. I think it's so unfortunate because the repercussions are things that are either very difficult to fix later in life or you can't fix them. And I know this is a new show, but it is one that gets a lot of views. And I know there's a lot of teenagers watching. You just won't be able to appreciate how bad a decision these things are until you get older.
I would say many of those larger issues are unfixable.
Yes.
Later in life.
you can probably mitigate a lot of the effects, but it'll take a lot of work and a lot of very helpful people or intelligent people to help you try and get around that. So yeah, that was the main reason I brought that one up. Which kind of segues into the next one. Look, a very impressive squat. Incredible squatting at 15.
Incredible squat.
Obviously, this isn't coming from a place of, just in case anyone thinks this is like jealousy or something, like, it's obviously not, just in case anyone thinks we're hating or anything. Like, seeing more teenagers lift is incredible, but it's just important to not fuck yourselves over. On that train, so we have Gordon Ryan, got himself into a bit of a pickle, and there's kind of a lot of things to talk about in this, so we'll give it a few minutes. Very short rundown of the story. Gordon has a lot of stomach and gut related issues, has done for quite a long time, it seems, for maybe close to a decade at this stage, certainly as long as it seems to be in the limelight for jiu-jitsu. Recently, in the last couple of months, 2 or 3 months, he got several bacterial infections, some of which were strep throat, and then he also ended up having to get 2 operations, basically in the same session from what I see. The infections he got were largely typical antibiotic resistant infections, which meant that he had to do other antibiotics. They had to try multiple different antibiotics. Now, of course, the big thing with that is if you take regular antibiotics, you're still essentially nuking your own gut microbiota, because it's massively important to health. And while this may not eliminate the infectious parasitic bacteria that is the pathogen that's causing the issue, it is still eliminating your own bacteria. Now, if you're already compromised and you're taking more antibiotics, it really does provide for a terrible situation. Long story short, Gordon has gone from essentially this physique, which he posted this photo himself, no one exposed him or anything like that. He's gone from that physique from something more like, let me just find something.
It's safe
like
to say, it's safe to say he was in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
Just less than a year ago, probably of all athletes in all sports, he would be in the top 1% in terms of his physique. Obviously, in terms of like actual strength numbers or power outputs or any of that, wouldn't compare. But in terms of the aesthetics of his physique, he was in that top echelon, the 99th percentile, I think would be fair to say. When you're talking about issues like this, so these kind of long-running health implications, I think you have to bring up the PED thing. So
yeah,
it's a well-known fact he's on PEDs. Obviously, the story is that this is a long-running issue that came about from initially getting staph years and years ago, and then basically being constantly on oral antibiotics for years on end because of kind of long-running issues with staph, constantly getting staph. I know they were training in a gym in New York where it was just a kind of done thing that everybody had staph all the time by the sounds of it. Obviously, running multiple courses of those every year is very, very problematic. If you're doing it constantly, like these guys were rumoured to have done, it's massively problematic. And one was just talking about the long-term effects of gear. If you're doing all the antibiotics and nuking yourself and then taking a lot of oral, particularly anabolic and androgenic steroids, it really does put you in a terrible situation. And this is the kind of impact you could be having long term.
Well, I do want to say though that people want this to be as a result of steroids too badly. Too many people are jumping to that conclusion. We don't see this with other people. We don't see this kind of issue manifest. I think probably what this did was potentially expose some issues he already had. I'm sure it's not helping in some scenarios, that the use of performance-enhancing drugs probably weren't assisting in this a lot. But I don't think it's as cut and dry as people want it to be. I don't really have any particular feelings towards Gordon Ryan. I enjoy the back and forth and the beef with B Team, etc., and Craig Jones, and I enjoy the optics of it. It does make the sport a little bit more interesting in that regard. I know a lot of people get annoyed by Gordon Ryan, but I have no very, very neutral on the whole situation. And if you look at the comments, I think it's very interesting how aggressive people want to be about the PED aspect. And you see this a lot in a lot of sports. If people who don't use PEDs see someone who does use PEDs, and while they say they mightn't care if people use PEDs, a lot of times you'll see people are quite judgy about it, and they're very aggressive in that regard. And when they see someone, quote unquote, get their comeuppance, they're very quick to blame it on the PEDs. In Gordon Ryan's case, there's nobody else competing, or very, very few other of his competitors are not using PEDs. You know, they'll say things like cheater or whatever, but he is competing in a league, in a sport that very specifically doesn't test. Now, you may or may not agree with that as a conceptual competition, and that is good or bad for jiu-jitsu is one thing or another. It's a totally different story. What is important here is that he's not competing against anyone who he's cheating them over by using PEDs or by using steroids. And I think the comments are very interesting because it's people are super aggressive.
Yeah.
And it's weird because if you look at the comments in a few of the posts, you'll see a lot of the same people saying, you know, stop taking steroids. This is why the steroids. You've done this yourself with the steroids.
And that's the thing.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
It's very unlikely that this level of outcome was caused by, like, if this was the case, if he did this to himself using steroids, everybody else in jiu-jitsu, competing in the ADCC, competing in many of the classes in the IBJJF, would be in just as bad a situation. Any sport.
Yeah.
Like, every single bodybuilder in the world would look like this after finishing a cycle or whatever. And people don't look like that, you know. I think it was probably some issues were exacerbated by it. Maybe his ability to bounce back, or maybe the viciousness of the attack on his gut biota was increased by the use of some orals. But it's very important to note that this isn't what the outcome is for everyone. Mm-hmm. But this outcome was almost certainly not helped by rampant gear use.
Yeah, so obviously a huge amount of particular gear use could obviously make this a lot worse. But it's very interesting to see that people will look for any in. He rubs people up a lot along the way. So if anyone watching this doesn't know who Gordon Ryan is, he's essentially the best no-gi jiu-jitsu fighter, or one of the greatest no-gi jiu-jitsu fighters currently in the sport, or has been to this date. Very controversial figure, very consistent in rubbing people up the wrong way online, and comes across as quite abrasive. And I think when people see any opportunity to combat something he does by bringing him down a little bit, I think that's probably the avenue people seem to be choosing.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well, the steroid thing is so aggressive for people that if it was something like his eyesight was bad, mm-hmm. people would be like, oh, it's clearly steroids, you know. Mm-hmm. Or if if his hair fell out and everybody in his family forever had been bald, they'd still say, oh, it's the steroids. You know, they really do look for any opportunity to dig the knife in. But that's what happens when you're on top of the hill.
Yeah, it is. And I suppose Gordon would have known what he's doing when he posted this photo. Certainly interesting situation. I would say more likely than not that he'll be back in just as good a shape, regardless of his personality type or how he comes across online. You know, he is undeniably the best at no-gi jiu-jitsu, so it'll be interesting to see if he can make a comeback and how people will progress in the meantime. Thanks for watching the news show, and thank you for everyone who comments and tags us in different videos. We really appreciate it. It makes a huge difference to the quality of the news show, and it also is very valuable for us to see different aspects. A lot of the news shows are made up of stuff that we've already seen, or stuff that you've gotten to us before we've seen it, and we would have put them in anyway, so it's great to see the tags. And a lot of times it's stuff that we would never seen at all, which is very great, because it really helps to expand the news show and make sure we cover different interesting aspects.
If you want to be able to train harder, your recovery is the number one thing to pay attention to. One of the most important things, or most important aspects of your recovery, is obviously going to be your sleep, the amount of sleep you get, and the quality of that sleep you do get. So Sika Sleep is 30 of these sachets in a box. You can order it at the link below, and let us know what you think once it arrives.